My name is Jasmine Kees, and you are tuned into the first episode of Reuters Events Women in Marketing. I'm so excited to be here today. As many of you already know, I'm a strategic director at Reuters Events. I put together a number of reports, webinars, workshops, and of course, events to provide the marketing community with the insights on the most important business critical trends and challenges. But today I am here with Meredith Rosenbloom, the Director of Growth at Grubhub, and we are going to talk about effective leadership and developing your own personal leadership brand, your own authentic leadership brand and style. So thank you so much for joining us here today, Meredith.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me. It's so fun to see all of you guys tuning in virtually. Of course, we wish that we were in person, but this is a great option instead.
That's just it, isn't it? But yeah, and just on that note then, I want to encourage everyone to ask questions and join the conversation. Whether you're using the chat to message each other, message questions for Meredith and I to answer, or to simply comment on your opinion on what's going on at the moment. So to kick us off, I want, I'd like to ask you, Meredith, tell us a little bit about your career journey. When did you start at Grubhub? What happened before? What led you to move into growth marketing?
And it's so funny because what I'm about to say is the advice I give myself, that you can never predict your future career. But it's really true if I look back at my career. My beginning of my career, I was on the brand side of marketing, working at agencies, working on the brand side. And the jobs I got always was through the traditional way of networking, getting to know people, having conversations. And then I blindly one day applied for my job at Grubhub. It was a brand side job. I forgot I even applied. I was just applying everywhere. And I got the job 3 weeks later. And so that just goes to show that you never know how you're going to get a job. You can do those blind applies. And then when I was working at Grubhub, I was not on the growth team to start. I was, like I said, on the brand side. And the head of growth, who may or may not be dialed in right now, he saw that I was analytical and he thought that I could add a lot of value to the to the growth side. And he asked me to join the team. And I remember just being so conflicted about what to do, what role to take, once again, trying to predict the future. And I was even on a hiking trip with a coworker and a friend at Grubhub, and we were walking and talking and hiking about which role to take. And she reminded me that you need to just go with, where there's a good leader, and you need to go when somebody taps you on the shoulder. You can't, once again, predict the future. And that's what I did. I took the role and I haven't looked back since. It's the best decision I've made in my career.
Well, it sounds like, is Alex Weinstein that you're speaking of?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he is fantastic. He's got a real, he really does make you appreciate and value your attributes as a leader. And I'm sure that's kind of why he jumped in when he tapped on your shoulder and said, hey, sounds like, or it looks like you're really, really good or quite analytical, and put you in the position where that can really be appreciated. That must have felt really good.
Oh, of course. Everybody wants to be liked, wants to be wanted. I mean, we'd be lying if we didn't say that was true.
You're absolutely right. And now that you're in that role, what exactly does that entail?
Yeah, and what's so fun about a company like Grubhub is your role is always changing, and you shouldn't be scared of that. I think change is a good thing. Change helps you grow. It helps you learn new things. Right now, I'm responsible, I should say me and my team, we are responsible for acquisition and retention at Grubhub in partnership with our restaurants. So we're a marketplace. So it's not just about Grubhub, it's about how do we grow our business with our restaurant partners involved.
Brilliant. And within that team, what would you say has been the most challenging aspect of leading through a pandemic, especially in an industry where the growth in obviously delivery has been exponential? How have you found that?
And I think, us talking today, we should be vulnerable, right? And be saying what's like authentic to ourselves. And what was hard at the beginning was as leaders, we were going through the experience that our team was going through. So we had to process what we were trying to make sense of while we were supposed to be leading. And that was very hard. And I think for me, what I tried to do is, I hope I did this, was try to think about putting my team first. That if I knew I needed support from my manager during that time, my team probably needed support from me as well. So that's really, checking in more with my team, allowing them. I think it's something we'll talk about a lot, because this is what I believe in, giving my team space that they need to process everything was really key to what I tried to do to help my team through the pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely. And so as we were kind of, obviously, we had a few chats before this call, and a few of the bits that came up were around a Harvard Business Review article that looked at the effectiveness of women as leaders during crisis, so namely the first wave of the pandemic. And it's a very interesting conversation. What started off talking about women ended in how leaders can better serve and support their teams during crisis. So we kind of came to the conclusion that it's not so much about your gender as it is about your own personal and unique leadership style. So it's not how a woman leads. I lead like Jasmine, you lead like Meredith. We all have our own personal leadership style, which obviously feeds off what we're good at. And obviously then, there are aspects that we're challenged by, but we need to be authentic, just as you were just now. And, we're speaking generally about women, and they tend to be more empathetic. They tend to be stronger communicators, more resilient and humble as well. So I'd be interested, Meredith, how would you describe your leadership style, and how did you establish your strengths and your weaknesses?
Yeah, so it's such a good conversation, and there's so much I want to say here. I think, first of all, it's really important to emphasize what we had talked about, that, it's not, even though this is a women in marketing series, it's not just about women versus male and how they lead. It's about how I as an individual lead. And because so much, like, society wants to mold us to be this certain person, to lead a certain way. But then if you become like too far, as a woman towards the male side, where you're too intense, you're too direct, then you might be, the B word that you might be called, right? Then you might be called something that's negative, right? But if you're too nice, right, you might be too sweet, right? And so why even try? Just be yourself. And that's really where I've landed, because I've gotten so much feedback in my career to be this way and be that way. And ultimately, I'm just going to be myself. And I just want to pull out the traits that I think are positive in a leader, to be a leader, versus trying to create new traits. So with that said, the traits that I want to pull out as a leader, and I probably have already said this word, is like being empathetic. My team, we are all people. Grubhub is based in Chicago. A lot of us live in Chicago. These are people like that are friends that I'm going to run into down the street, that are humans. Like, understand where they're coming from. We're not just at work to churn out work. There's the emotional piece of it too that I want to understand with my team. On the flip side, I would say I'm pretty direct. People who know me is I have a hard time, softening the tone sometimes. I say it as it is, but I like that about me, because then if I say to somebody on my team, like, you're on the path to get a promotion, I hope that they believe it, because what I say is true and direct and not sugar-coated.
Absolutely. I think I can actually say that I'm a little bit similar in my leadership style. And I often kind of personally am worried that I might that I might offend someone. So I'm like, okay, just by the way, this is just the way that I am as a leader. I'm just direct. But if you need any support or tell me what you need, communicate with me. And it sounds like I said, authenticity isn't something that you seem to struggle with, which is such an attribute. That's awesome, because I think that a lot of women do struggle with that because, like you said, we often get put in a box to a degree. So, you know, it's just easy to fall into being a people pleaser. And especially when you've taken on maybe a new team like you did at Grubhub, and naturally you want to be liked. So why do you think it's so important, kind of, to be authentic? Like, what would your advice be to those in the audience, when maybe your authentic self clashes with someone else in the team?
Yeah, and so I think you need to think about personalities on like a spectrum or like a circle if you want to envision it. And there's different personalities. So like there's direct and then there's indirect, right? They're opposite from one another. And my advice is always to think about who are you talking to figure out and who you are. So if I'm Meredith, if I'm direct, and you're Jazz and you're indirect, and I know I'm sending an email to you, and I know your personality might be more of an indirect, soft-spoken personality, I might have to think, how do I, while still being myself, meet you halfway, right? Try to, because work is about getting business done, right? And it's about negotiating constantly.
Yeah.
And you do have to, come together. So maybe I need to know to make my tone a little bit more subtle in an email to you versus if I see the name Joy on the screen, if like Joy is very direct like me, and I realize that when sending, Joy a Slack, it's okay to be a little bit more direct. So it's understanding who you're talking to kind of know how to stretch your traits as needed.
That's awareness, isn't it? That's
Yeah.
self-awareness. And I think that you definitely develop that as you grow as a leader, and with more experience, you tend to be better at that. I mean, like most things, with experience you get better. But that's an important point, and maybe something that we need to kind of recognize when we are talking to our team or moving into a new team. And I guess looking back at that article, the HBR article, which to everyone watching, we will send around after the webinar. So the data cited in the article showed what thousands of direct reports needed from their leaders. It's been a very challenging time, and mental health has been a concern regardless of industry, role, gender, or seniority. So how do you know what your team needs right now? Are you, I guess, how are you coaching them and supporting them effectively?
Yeah, you stole my word. I was going to say coach. So I think when it comes to leadership right now, a leader is somebody to inspire, to coach, to guide, right? And you're going to see my bluntness, my directness come out in a second. Like as a leader, I'm not like a therapist, right? I'm not here to, I'm not trained to solve all the problems that, my team has faced this year and will continue to face. So, but what I can do as a leader is try to predict what my team needs. And I use the word space, and I'll say it again, is give the team the space that they need. And, in Chicago, when there were big riots this summer, allowing people, when I saw on the TV what was going on, I was distracted. So I was probably thinking my team's distracted. So slacking my team to say, if you need to take the afternoon off or any time you need to process this at any point, please do so. On the inauguration day in the States, we did the same thing, or I did the same thing, where I wanted to, no matter your political views, wanted to just process what was going on. Work can wait. And I, in this new, like, hopefully one day, the post-COVID era where we're able to be more remote, people can, take the space to process what they need and get their work done later. And then what my predictions are not always going to be right. But if I lead by saying it's okay to take time off during the day to process what you need, I hope then my team will come to me or my managers and say, I need this time, and not have to give a reason, right? To know that it's okay to say that, like, your mental health matters and I need this hour, afternoon, day for my mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can say that Thomson Reuters are definitely following that as well. And I hope that most companies are. I feel like they are. We, it has been a very challenging year, but on the, there's always a silver lining. And I think that mental health awareness and leading more empathetically has been, significantly raised in leadership and across industry. So I guess coming towards the end of time, we might be able to take one question, but before we do, I want to ask, what type of leader will excel in 2021? What traits will you be finessing and harnessing as we start to see the world return to normal?
Yeah, and so it's like air quotes return to normal.
It is.
Yeah, who knows if it will this year, and especially at a place, where I work at Grubhub, where I don't have to go back to the office immediately. If anybody's on my team listening, it doesn't mean we're not going back. I'm just saying we're not going back tomorrow. We're okay remote for a little longer, I think. And so with that, like, people are burnt out. We take a week off. We're still tired because all these people are tuning in and see my bed behind me. I go to bed, I wake up, I do work, I go to bed. It's like the rise and grind every day. And so I think the most important thing is a leader that's inspiring, that through these digital walls that, can motivate and produce energy for the team, to give them, excitement to wake up every day and to go to work, even if you don't have a human interaction that used to be like so fun and I miss so much. But there still is the way to produce that energy through, these digital walls. And that is so important to inspire our teams that way over the next year and even beyond.
Absolutely. And inspire is something that I think is coming through a bit. It's actually just come through in a question. We've got an attendee here who wants to know, what is the balance of inspiring and leading teams when influenced by your personal versus brand values? So obviously we have our personal leadership style, but then for the company we work in, we have brand values that we need to follow and guidelines from our leaders as well. So what's your thoughts on that, Meredith?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you also know how to speak up as a leader and try to impact change if you have values that your company might not have. Like, how do you still voice that to your leader to say that these are things that I want to pull through? I mean, around, Black Lives Matter, the height of it, when the conversations kind of died down a little bit, my team continued to, or I tried to continue to have the conversations with my team in a smaller group because I thought it was important. So you as a leader can have conversations, in my opinion, that like your upper management might not always be having with the company.
Brilliant. I couldn't agree more. And we've got time for one more question here. So with so many demands as a leader, and especially in 2020, 2021, what motivates you? I think it's a great one to end on, actually. What motivates you, Meredith? To get up in the morning, step over to your desk.
It's like, this person's gonna smile because they're on, but they're listening right now. But it's the people that I work with. And I have really great peers and partners that I work with every day who, help me and I help them. And that's really exciting, that it truly feels like a team. And so to get up every day and to help each other, that motivates me.
Brilliant. Well, I think that is the perfect note to end on. Thank you so much, Meredith Rosenbloom, the Director of Growth at Grubhub. We will be coming together again in 2 weeks' time. This is a bi-monthly webcast. Next time, tuning in, we will have Leah Sharif, the head of brand for Qualcomm. So that's in 2 weeks' time. Now, I will send around a few little details and a follow-up after this with the HBR article, but I want to open this conversation and into the Women in Marketing group on LinkedIn. These questions have been fantastic, and I want to keep this conversation going. Recordings will be received sometime tomorrow, so stay tuned and keep engaged and involved and talking to each other, because we need to keep these communities happening while we're in a virtual world.
Definitely. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, Meredith.
Bye.